of life of its citizens. So, what is our mechanism? Instead of building tech centers in big cities, we're going to allocate the fund to develop infrastructures in areas like Papua, Riau, Aceh, Nusa Tenggara Timur, Nusa Tenggara Barat, and etc., building roads, internet access, medical facilities, and others. We provide minorities more work opportunities by building more infrastructures and building more job opportunities. Now, there are three arguments to support our case. First, equal infrastructure. Second, better quality of life. And third, which will be explained by my second speaker later on. But before I continue the arguments, there are 3 points of second. Now, a bit of characterization. First is on developed countries. We need a short-term solution for now. Why? There are citizens in our country who still can't get clean water and still struggle to find food, just simple food itself to feed itself for one day. Now, there are still people, citizens who have solutions that provides secure, secure, security for those minorities that are still struggling in our country. Now, next characterization is on startups and tech centers. Now, startups and tech centers that we have defined before, they have money incentives and they won't benefit the lower class. Why do test test test?
Yes, you are audible, and you may turn off your camera.
Okay. Okay, I'll resume my speech in 3, 2, 1. Next characterization is on startup and tech centers. Now they have money incentives. Why? Because they are made to expand the country and they have targets. They want to create like more economic development for our country, and hence they have like money incentives, and they want to like have the to maximize their profit and maximize their development. Hence, they won't have the motivation to benefit the lower classes, and hence this will widen the social gaps because who will be benefited by these tax centers? Those people on urban areas, those people who have high education and are working in these tax centers, startups, and etc. And also, why startups are very money incentives? Because they have like a short-term goal where they want to like have the like I said before the better profit, and they're going to have targets. Now, moving on to the preemptive, the proposition cannot say that we are against technology advancement because we are not completely blocking out technology advancement. We are just prioritizing the long-term benefit solutions and not short-term. Now, startups and techs prioritize like short-term like money incentives, and what we're saying here is we want to make the people on the ground, like the minorities, we want to make them equal to the people in the cities first, and that's when we're finally able to start moving on to technology advancement and stuff like that. We can't like make Indonesia the same level as those developed countries and focus on technology when the people below in Indonesia themselves, in the minorities, still can't read and still have very limited uh, access to education, limited access to like food, water, clean water, and stuff like that. And third, panel, in this debate, we want to prove that the social gaps are dangerous and it is much more dire than the technology advancement. And if we are able to prove on our side we can decrease that dangerous social gap, we will win this debate. Having said that, turning on to our first argument, equal infrastructures. First, funds are allocated to rural areas, and now we finally see them have adequate facilities. The same that is in Java. How? Because instead of fancy technology and all that, we provide them with concrete facilities that they actually need: food, shelter, and etc. Why is it important for us as a developing country? Improved infrastructure such as roads, bridges, ports, facilities, access to internet and all that. This makes it easier for trade and e-commerce and stuff like that. This is what drives the economy of our developing country. Not tax centers, not startups that are inaccessible to those in like rural areas and those minorities. This is our building block to move as a developing country. Now, why does this not exist on their side of the house? Funds are allocated on startups, tech centers, infrastructures, and other regions of Indonesia. And sorry. Funds are allocated on startups, tech centers, and hence the infrastructures on other regions of Indonesia are abandoned. Why is this likely to happen? Panel, even without the funds allocated to that tech centers and stuff like that, we can see right now that there is already an equality in Java and other regions of Indonesia. So just imagine if you add to that fire. Just imagine if now we have tech centers in Java and big cities in Indonesia like that. Now, what will happen to these regions that are already abandoned in the first place? Hence, on our side of the house, we prove to you that we are able to have equal infrastructure in Indonesia. Moving to our second argument, our side of the house provides better quality of life. On our side of the house, we have the minorities, those coming from the edge, like of of Indonesia region, finally experiencing the same facilities that the people on the cities are experiencing. On their side of the house, this won't happen. The minorities do not have a place in the fancy tech centers and startups. They won't be benefited financially, nor will they able to be using all that technology advancements. How do you expect them to benefit from that while they still struggle to find clean water, while they don't have access to internet, while they can't even read? Now, this is why we believe that the technology advancement is not what we are prioritizing right now, especially as Gen Zs. We want to prioritize uh, our country to have equal rights, equal facilities, and we believe that our side will win in terms of the quality of life. Panel, our side of the house cares about the minority and the people who are struggling to make a living day to day, and their side only cares about money and technology advancement. Hence, we win this debate.
Thank you to Ms. Olivia for your argument. We now invite Mr. Aryan as the first speaker from the opposition team to present his argument in 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Time will start from the first word.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
I would like to mention that I have the same conditions for POI as the previous speaker. I will likely not be paying attention to the chat, so if anyone has a POI, they could just, open the mic and say POI. And if I reject it, I'll say rejection. And if I accept it, but after I finish speaking, then I'll say later. Is that clear for everyone who won? Or on the other side?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so good evening, everyone. Honorable adjudicator, valued opponents, and of course, cherished teammates. Please allow me to introduce myself as Aryan Judetus Ponogoro, the first speaker of the opposition team with this motion. The motion being that, as Gen Z, this House opposes Indonesia's Silicon Valley, and I'm very proud to represent the opposition side in this motion. So I will start my speech by giving our opinion on the definition of the motion as provided by the previous speaker, the issues of the government's stance, the rebuttals I bring to the points proposed, and there were a lot of points, I'll be honest, outline the points we will bring, and of course, give the closing of my speech. Now, I'd like to first appreciate the previous speaker for the wonderful and generous amount of points provided. I think their heart is in the right place, to be honest. But I'll have to say, if I wasn't in a debate, if I wasn't just the first speaker of the opposition side, I would think that they were either maliciously misleading the adjudicator and everyone involved in this debate, or that they simply misunderstood the entire motion, or the effects at least, of supporting the Silicon Valley, the Indonesian Silicon Valley. Now, I think everything that the previous speaker has said mainly boils down to this. Supporting these things instead of investing in other things such as roads or, for example, water purification plants to help more people is not as good. And they keep going around this motion. They keep going around this idea that these tech centers, these Indonesian Silicon Valleys in those 10 cities are somehow antithetical to making a better quality of life for everyone involved. Not just everyone involved, everyone in this country, and maybe beyond that. I'd like to provide a couple examples. Do people know about the tech startups of eFisheries and Gojek? These two things are two examples of tech startups which not only improve the quality of life of the ones making them, of course, they get a lot of money, they have those capital incentives, but it improved the quality of life of literally everyone in the country. E-fisheries, where allowed fish farmers to now automatically feed their fish. This helps so many people. It made fish cheaper for everyone. It helps the farmers. This increases the quality of life with what? Very, very little investment. Compared to building more farms, compared to investing more in those fisheries, this allows us to do it better. This allows us to do everything more efficiently. I think that's what they have completely glossed over. They're acting as if tech startups are just about improving the quality of life for a very select amount of people, just those tech billionaires, tech geniuses, the people in big cities. But they're forgetting that tech can be used and is used to help everyone. How many things do we have now would exist without tech startups? Yes, if you please.
How do you make sure that Gojek and stuff like that is like the same is the same case for like government funding? Because Gojek was not government funded. It was like not from the government. And here we are like prioritizing the government fund for these projects. This
Okay, allow me to explain. So honestly, I don't really see the point of your question. The source of the funding isn't really relevant in this case. In fact, government funding should make it even more likely because now they also have to answer to the government. If what they're doing is not supporting the people, if what they're doing is not in line with the interests of the government and the interests of the Indonesian state, then they can cut their funding. Honestly, I think that Gojek being an exception means that it is whatever we make should be better than it. If that explains it. Is that acceptable?
you can continue.
Okay, thank you. Now, okay, so that was the rebuttals, but I think I can go a bit further. Yeah, so in conclusion, well, they're just kind of missing the point here that tech startups, they're not just going to help those tech billionaires, those tech geniuses, but they're actually going to help improve the quality of life in the long term and in the short term for everyone. Now, of course, you should still make health centers. Of course, you should still make water purification plants. Of course, you still make roads, but we can make both. We can make both. Of course, there's only going to be so much that we can do. And honestly, these tech startups, their investment is relatively low because Silicon Valley, for example, it doesn't need as much land as roads. It doesn't need as many people to build. It's relatively low cost compared to everything else. It's not going to impact the budget as much as you think. And saying that because this doesn't help as much as building roads, building such means it should not be done. What about we stop investing in the military? What about we stop investing in literally anything or education? We have to strike a balance. We cannot simply focus on one thing. Maybe as a people, we could do that as a businessman, but as a country, the government and the House should continue to support the Indonesian Silicon Valley idea. Next, I move on to our points. Sorry for spending so long on that. I want to bring 2 points here. First, that this, of course, increases technology in Indonesia, and that it actually decentralizes the tech startup scene from Jakarta and Java, allowing for more people, those minorities you mentioned, to get involved in the tech startup scene. They don't have to just stay left behind as users, as consumers, but they can start being involved. If you look closely at the 10 cities involved, Bandung, Semarang, Jakarta, Yogyakarta, Surabaya, sure, some of them are in Java, but we also have Bali, Pontianak, Makassar. These are big cities, sure, by the standards of where they are, but these are cities outside of Java. This is decentralization for the tech startup scene. Would you prefer if all the tech startup was just in Jakarta? If everyone had to move to Jakarta to pursue their dreams as IT engineers, as programmers, etc. I think that the government side has completely missed the point of what we're doing here. Also, we have to realize that the capital incentives as provided by the tech startup movement is in fact good for the government. Say the government invests and get maybe a 30% share in a company. The money they get back from that company can then be reinvested into building what you want. They can use it to build roads. They can use it to build water purification centers. In the long term, and of course the long term is what matters, this is the better solution. And the government, of course, has to think in the long term. Now, honestly, I think I've said enough as the first speaker of the opposition, of the opposition team. And the speakers after me will bring on these 3 points: building opportunity for youth employment, attracting investors and allowing tech startups to learn and improve each other is a benefit of having the Indonesian Silicon Valleys, and that these Indonesian Silicon Valleys actually help to focus on the sustainability of startups, especially in this digital era. Thank you again for listening to my speech, and I apologize for taking so long. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your time, and let's have a good debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aryan, for your argument. We now invite Mr. Shafiq as the second speaker from the government team to present his argument in 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Time will start from the first word.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, I would like to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, now first thing I will want to move out to the rebuttal in this debate today is that firstly on how they are just only focusing about because of Gojek we are actually developing the use of the transportation in Indonesia, or because of these applications we are actually helping these people in Indonesia because we are giving them very much easier access on this transportation or other cases, etc. But what they fail to realize, ladies and gentlemen, is that we fail to realize that in urban areas, we still don't have the infrastructure to actually use Gojek. Why? We can see that in Papua, there are still many roads that are still not built, ladies and gentlemen. There are still many roads in many cities or many areas that are urban that is not even actually built in the first place itself. So how will these people actually use Gojek when even in the first place, there is no road to actually use this Gojek to begin with? So they are just focusing on how, because we are using Gojek, so then we can actually giving easier access and transportation. But in the first place itself, they fail to realize that we don't even have the equal infrastructure in all areas so that we can actually use all of these applications as equal in the first place itself. That is what they fail to understand and realize in the beginning of this debate today. And secondly, on how they say and how they're creating the Silicon Valley is not costly and will just be cheap. On how they said in our side, we are just over glorifying that the Silicon Valley creating the Silicon Valley is just going to be expensive. Ladies and gentlemen, they maybe also don't understand the concept of the Silicon Valley, where we are in the motion. We are actually building thousands of startups of technology, and this is not cheap, ladies and gentlemen. We're actually focusing on the development of technology, and also we have to understand that the characteristic of our country right now, that our manufacturing systems is actually not good enough to develop the technology, and this will actually mean that this will be so expensive on developing the Silicon Valleys. So they have the lack of understanding that this will actually be expensive the end of the day. So they're just providing arguments with not even a basic understanding of this motion in the beginning to begin with. Okay, now moving on to my arguments is that firstly, by creating Silicon Valleys in 10 central cities, or when in the motion says 1,000 startups, in the end will not be profitable and cause internal destruction of our economy. So firstly, in status quo right now, about even in our status quo right now, I'm more focusing in Indonesia. We as a developing country, there are still many areas with an inequality of infrastructure, like our first speakers already explained to you, where we have also have a lack of development of technology, lack of competence of human resources, and also secondly about our Gen Z. We also have to understand the concept of Gen Z, where all of our fresh graduates and fresh workers right now in this era is nominated by Gen Z. So us as Gen Z will be the workers and the main developers of these technologies that we are going to develop to begin with. And secondly, we have to characterize the Silicon Valley itself, where there are many key factors that need to be hinted in the development of the Silicon Valley to be to succeed to begin with, which is the construction that will cost literally many of our budget, also the need of many human competencies, many human resources that are actually qualified enough to actually develop this to begin with, and also the competition with many other countries that already have this advanced technology that can actually easily dominate the market and to begin with itself. So firstly, I will explain my arguments in two cases. Firstly, when the development of Silicon Valley started, or I will explain the case that happens in the opposition side of this debate today. So firstly, as again in status quo, this project will only focus on 10 main cities, for example, like Jakarta, Bandung, Semarang, and etc., meaning that our national budget will all be focused in these sectors. So what we have to explain to you again is that our main national budget will only be focused on these 10 main cities. Why? Because we have to understand again that this creating of this Silicon Valley is not cheap to begin with, because again of how our main manufacturing systems is not actually qualified enough to create this technology, and also our human resources. So in the end, the national budget that we have will only focus on the Silicon Valley, and we will reduce the budget for other sectors. And firstly, how we will understand and how we will determine these factors will impact in many cases is that firstly the inequality that my first speaker has already explained to you is that nowadays when we are facing inequality in many rural areas to begin with, we have to firstly solve the inequality of this infrastructure. Why? Because, ladies and gentlemen, because the lack of inequality in infrastructure causes the inequality of human resources. Why? Because we have in many different areas they don't have roads, they don't have good schools enough that comes up with the great standards of qualities, and also there will cause many internal chaos or conflicts, ladies and gentlemen, because people experience unfairness. Because why are there areas are not giving good infrastructure, but in the other hand, these 10 cities in the end will just be given great development. And secondly, the competition. You have to realize that many other countries, for example, like America, has already advanced technology developments in the Silicon Valley. And also, how will this end and cause negative impacts and zero profits? Three main reasons: the competence of our human resources, our technology development right now, and the budget. So we have such lack of human resources right now, where many of our human resources don't even finish undergraduate study, and also we have lack of the competence of STEM, ladies and gentlemen. And also we have to understand that our budget is still not enough to focus on technology development, because in the beginning we have to focus on the development of inequality of infrastructure to begin with, and because of that we can actually finish this development of Silicon Valley to the best grade or the best quality possible, with also solving this other problems are facing such score right now. And also, what is the point of spending too much budget when in the end we will lose competition and lose the market? Because, ladies and gentlemen, when we are facing the market of these technologies, we have to realize that we are facing with America, we are facing with China, we are facing with countries that they have already solved most of their internal conflicts and are focusing on the technologies. And in the other hand, we are still focusing on our internal conflicts, and now we are just going to give most of our budget to these technology developments. So in the end of the day, we have to realize and not be naive, ladies and gentlemen, that in the end of the day, we will actually lose and not dominate this market. Because why? Because in the beginning, we are already losing towards America and China in the first place. And also, this will in the end cause internal chaos, because again, we are not actually developing what our people want. We're just causing more inequality, and people will actually feel that this is not fair to begin with. Now, secondly, in our second case is when the development of Silicon Valley is opposed, or what our mechanism will look like and how our case will actually look like. So if we are actually focused on our mechanism, or we are focusing on building infrastructure, we are actually focusing on building our education to begin with, then we are making sure that all people receive the same amount of resources, they receive the same amount of infrastructure. And how does this impact us is that it can create better human resources caused by the great facility factors, because people are receiving the same backgrounds of this infrastructure to begin with. And also, we are focusing the expanding of human resources, we are expanding the qualities of universities in the STEM system to begin with. That is more important rather than just focusing to develop this technology to begin with, ladies and gentlemen. And also, how will this impact us is that, yes, maybe we do agree that we will not dominate the market of this technology, but this is way much better than risking our budget to actually risk our budget for something that in the end of the day will cause zero profit, and this will actually cause loss in our budget and cause internal chaos, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Why in the end of the day our side will be better? Because we solve inequality, we solve internal chaos. Well, in their side, they will actually cause loss of budget, they will actually cause zero profit, and they will actually cause internal chaos in our country to begin with. So that is from me, and I'm proud to propose.
Thank you to Mr. Shafiq for your argument. We now invite Ms. Rania as second speaker from the opposition team to present her argument in 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Time will start from the first.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Wait, okay. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges, and my fellow debaters, while the other team raises valid concerns about infrastructure, cost, inequality, and Gen Z domination, I believe these points overlook the transformative potential of Indonesia's own Silicon Valley. Investing its startups and digital economy and creating a Silicon Valley like ecosystem will not only address these concerns, but also provide innovative solutions to uplift all Indonesians. My first point that I will tell you all is about urban areas and infrastructure. The claim that urban areas lack the infrastructure to support tech development misunderstands the nature of digital ecosystems. Technology does not depend on massive infrastructure like manufacturing plants. It thrives on innovation. In fact, the push to develop a tech hub would stimulate improvements in critical infrastructures, including better internet connectivity and energy grids. These upgrades would not only benefit the tech sector, but also enhance the quality of life for millions of Indonesians. By focusing on Silicon Valley startups and new digital ecosystems and encouraging it, we are encouraging investments in smart cities, better public services, and enhanced urban planning, which will directly improve living conditions in these areas. So instead of being a limitation, this can encourage urban areas to become hubs of transformation. To emphasize short-term benefits alongside these long-term investments, the focus also should be on how immediate opportunities will arise from building these tech ecosystems. Okay, and my second point is about cost concerns and about immediate benefits. While it's true that building a Silicon Valley-like ecosystem requires investment in infrastructure, this investment provides both short-term and long-term gains. The short-term benefits are immediate job creation in construction, infrastructure development, and urban planning. Building these cities, these tech cities, will require skilled and unskilled labor, offering immediate employment opportunities to thousands of Indonesians, particularly those in construction and related fields. Moreover, as the tech cities develop, they will stimulate local economies through the demand for housing, services, and retail. Local businesses such as restaurants, transport services, and maybe small suppliers will experience growth as these hubs become fully operational. This means that the impact on local economies is immediate, with benefits extending beyond the tech sector itself. In addition, foreign and domestic investment will begin flowing in and providing further funding for the city's development, which will quickly boost local employment and business opportunities. And then my third point being addressing inequality of infrastructure. The concern about inequality in infrastructure is precisely why a Silicon Valley rejected is why Silicon Valley-like ecosystem is necessary. A growing digital economy and a growing startup companies demands access to technology across regions, and this will drive government efforts and encouragement to extend internet connectivity and digital infrastructure to undeserved areas. And then by fostering innovation, we also empower startups that are addressing these very issues, societal issues, social issues, and economic issues, ensuring that no one is left behind, because startups usually focus on a lot of issues that are relevant in this society. And then about competitiveness, the argument that Indonesian talent would lose to more established companies fail to recognize the homegrown talent pool and unique advantages Indonesia possesses. The demand for digital transformation and how startup can encourage that in Indonesia means startup can address local challenges with local solutions. Okay. And for me, our manufacturing systems is not a valid reason to reject the tech ecosystem, because in fact, a Silicon Valley would complement and modernize Indonesia's manufacturing sector by encouraging the development of smart manufacturing solutions, which are something that we industrial engineering students are working on. So this will encourage those innovations. And then I would also like to add in a few more arguments in my last minutes of speech. The first argument being how Silicon Valley is building opportunities for youth employment. In today's world, while digital skills are increasingly in demand, it is crucial that we create avenues for our youth to thrive. Gen Z domination. Indonesia's Silicon Valley will be a game changer for young people, which dominate our country, offering countless employment opportunities in the rapidly growing technology sector. And then about attracting investors and fostering collaboration. Another major benefit of establishing Indonesia's Silicon Valley is its potential to attract investors, both local and international. We know from the example of Silicon Valley in the United States that such tech hubs become magnets for venture capitalists and investors who are keen to fund the next big idea. These investments will support our infrastructure and increase the quality of life so that no one is left behind. So, in conclusion, the argument raised by the other team highlights valid concerns, but these very concerns demonstrates why we need a Silicon Valley-like ecosystem in Indonesia. Rather than creating divisions, this initiative will bring inclusive long-term solutions and also short-term gains that improve infrastructure, bridge social gaps, and modernize our economy. This is not just about technology, it's about creating a future where all Indonesians can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you to Ms. Prania for your argument. We now invite Mr. Farrell as the third speaker from the government team to present his argument in 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Time will start from the first word.
Is my voice audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, for my POI preference, I would like anyone to POI by just unmuting their microphones. The principle of the richer gets richer and the poorer gets poorer applies very much here. For this motion, as the Gen Z, this House opposes Indonesia's Silicon Valley with the context that the program is the National 1000 Digital Startup Movement. And I'm going to emphasize that the only 10 cities will have the Indonesian-style Silicon Valley, which are Jakarta, Bandung, Semarang, Yogyakarta, Surabaya, Malang, Bali, Medan, Pontianak, and Makassar. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good night. My name is Farrell Putra Mahmoudi, and I'm the third speaker for the government team. Now, I just emphasize on those cities, capital cities of, you could say, pretty much big provinces. Now, so far, I haven't seen much of a reply from the opposing team. They haven't been able to give any response or even rebut anything that we have said. They've given much points and so on and so forth, but they haven't attacked back. And let me tell you why. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the second speaker has given us so much points, telling us how they're able to provide innovative solutions to all Indonesians, stimulate innovation for technology, enhance urban planning, short-term solutions for building tech cities, stimulate smaller economies and growth, provide growth and jobs for those cities. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is just falsities. This is just a way for you to be convinced that Silicon Valleys are actually beneficial for us. However, my second speaker has already brought a lot of points telling you how Silicon Valleys aren't very effective. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we already lack the resource to even start anything in the first place. Now you're telling me that by building technological cities, technology centers and already developing cities and thinking that it's actually innovative solution to all Indonesians is such a really bad falsity. Let me ask you this. The second speaker has always emphasized and always has told us that by building tech cities or Silicon Valleys in those cities in Indonesia, they are able to give us better urban planning. But why would he even start in giving better urban planning for cities like Jakarta? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Jakarta is already a very well-developed country. Hell, we even started trying to make a new capital city in Kalimantan for the same reason that we want the whole entire country for us to progress in a very good way. Now, on another side, I would like to also reply again to the first speaker's point, telling us that and make an example that Gojek is actually beneficial for everyone. But let me ask you this. How is it beneficial for everyone? Have you gave us an example where places like, for example, Papua hasn't have road infrastructure that has been built yet? Or maybe have you even told me that how in Padang, a lot of people don't have access to even use smartphones and even use the app itself? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the opposing team is only focused on how we're able to create already rich cities, make them richer without even giving a single care about the smaller cities or smaller countries. Now, I would like to conclude some of the points made by my previous speakers. Now, I would like to tell you this. The core problem in this debate is economic development. Economic development is not for the whole country. Now, in the whole country, you're going to say that the whole country is only for everyone in the world.
Eli?
But no, thank you. But actually, economic development applies to every single person, be it from the high class and be it also from the low class. You haven't been able to emphasize to me how you're able to develop low class development. You guys told me that you guys are able to add job employment for other people, but you guys haven't exactly gave us specifications on who will be able to benefit from job employments in those situations. Now, I would like to tell you that we want to equalize infrastructure because when we're able to create a basis, when we're able to create a standard for every single city or every single place in Indonesia right now, they're able to finally use the startups that you guys have been proposing in the first place. You guys want to create startups. You guys want to create applications. You guys want to create innovations for us. But how are you able to even do so if you're aren't even able to even start with making a standardized place for the whole country? Now, continuing on, we have a certain budget. We have an allocation of money that we need to put. Now, my second speaker has already emphasized that what we need to do is to allocate our money, allocate the people's tax into creating infrastructure. In the first place, we are right now in the status quo, we are competing with multinational companies. We are competing with the outside world. Sure, come on.
Is the third speaker implying that Indonesian tech startups cannot win against multinational companies and other companies from outside Indonesia?
Okay. The amplification is true. However, the amplification that Indonesia isn't able to compete with multinational companies is wrong. But with the resources we have now, do you guys really think that it is realistic to even start competing with them? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, simple example right now of how we're supposed to try and compete with multinational companies right now. You could see like electric vehicles. We as a country haven't even been able to develop electrical vehicles right now. They're able to compete with countries like China. So now if you want to even start and develop and try to make tech companies or maybe even tech startups, how do you guys even think that we're able to allocate all our money to just that and compete with other countries? I don't think that's realistic. It is possible, but it's not realistic right now. So what I'm trying to tell you right now is that we need a long-term solution. We need to be able to help create a better quality of life for everyone in the country right now. We need to be able to give the lower class people a better way to live. We need to be able to build infrastructures for them. We need to be able to give them roads, give them maybe better urbanized areas than just to focus in cities like, again, Jakarta, Bandung, Semarang, Yogyakarta, Surabaya, Malang, Bali, Medan, Pontianak, and Makassar, which are already big cities. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it has come to my attention that the opposing team only cares about those cities. They think by just building those cities, they're able to build other cities, but they don't really think that by building those cities, other cities around it will be affected also. So in conclusion, I would like to tell you this. Again, from my opening statement, the richer gets richer and the poor gets poor. That is the one thing or the one principle that the opposing team holds. They didn't even try to rebut against what my second speaker said because they know, and it is true, that what we are saying previously is right. So further on, I would like to imply that any possibility you think that Indonesia isn't able to do is not because we're not able to do that, not because we don't have the competence to do it, but simply because we don't have the resource from either the government or even from the human resource itself. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is why I'm proud to oppose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Farrell for your argument. We now invite Ms. Jenny as the third speaker from the opposition team to present her argument in 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Time will start from the first word.
Okay, thank you for the chance. Now, good evening, honorable adjudicators and valued opponents, and also my cherished teammates. Now, I would like to say thank you to the opportunity for debate on the motion today from the opposition side. Now, please allow me to introduce myself. I'm Jenny Duvermasari, and right now is speaking as the third speaker from the opposition team. Now, I would like to start my speech by giving out the rebuttals I bring to the points that proposed, and also giving the conclusion from our key points and giving the closing of my speech. Now, I would like to address the point that was made by the government team. I think that we have to settle on the first one, which is that investing in innovation is actually not a cost, but it is an investment for the future. So, ladies and gentlemen, while the claim that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer may resonate with some, but I think it oversimplifies the dynamics of economic growth, particularly in the context of establishing a Silicon Valley ecosystem in Indonesia. Now, building tech hub Silicon Valley is actually not a waste of money. It is an investment. This movement will probably generate returns in the long run of driving economic growth. That is why that this movement will create jobs, stimulating new industries, and also startups will also support these hubs, not only create employment opportunities, but also improves to the tax revenues, which can be reinvented to the public services like probably education and also healthcare. So for the second point, I would like to address that decentralization does not create opportunities across the region. So the claim that the rich will benefit, it is actually incorrect because by spreading this innovation of hubs across all of the multiple cities outside of Java, the health and opportunities will not only be centralized in Jakarta alone. So this movement will probably decentralize the growth and allows regions like the other countries like Medan, Makassar, and Pontianak to also thrive and creating opportunities for those who probably and might be left behind. For the third point, I would like to address, yes, regions like Papua and the other cities are probably suffering from infrastructure challenges and limited access to education and also technology. But innovation hubs in these areas will not only create jobs, but also enhance education through digital platforms and also improve public healthcare through technology. Like, for example, tech startups focusing in healthcare will probably develop solutions through technologies and also provide a remote healthcare access to in Papua. So agri-tech startup could also create a sustainable farming practices and boost agriculture productivity not only on the Silicon Valley but to be implemented to all of the Indonesia's region. So how are we going to create something new and how are we going to chase the developed country if we hesitate in creating innovations? So ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to conclude our point in today's motion. The first one is to increase the technological market in Indonesia. With the growing demands of uh, tech industry, most of this potential in Indonesia is currently still untouched because of the infrastructure and all the resources for these technological companies are probably still underdeveloped and not supported by the government. And that is why by creating multiple innovation hubs in these areas and creating a Silicon Valley, we encourage the growth of new startups, all of the sectors, whether it's fintech, healthcare, agri-tech, or probably education tech. And also, this expansion will probably allow local people to allow us as a youth to develop tech products and services for us to start because of the needs of Indonesia rather than probably relying on the foreign countries. So it ensures that the growth of our digital market actually benefits the Indonesians for the first and the foremost, and later on probably doing export to the other country. That is what we hope in the long run. And the second one is to decentralize the tech startup scenes from Jakarta and also Java. Currently, I think that majority of the startup development in Indonesia is concentrated in Jakarta and probably some parts of Java. So this probably will create inequalities and opportunities for the other country and the other region. So probably through this, we could address the establishing hubs in such as cities like Makassar, Medan, Surabaya, and Bali. And regional youth and talents will not longer have to go and move to Java or Jakarta to be able to succeed and access this higher technological opportunity. They will have a chance to build businesses and contribute to their local economies and community. And the third one is the building opportunities for the youth employment. We, as the Gen Z, is currently facing a hardship in getting a job, and that is a problem for all of us. How do you guys are able to create an equality if unemployment rate is still skyrocketing? We need new areas. We need to offer opportunities for young people to create and work in startups. Now, through the Silicon Valley, we as a Gen Z could develop our skill, assess mentorship, and probably gain more experiences in entrepreneurship. And it also allows us to be in a place where young entrepreneurship like us probably in the future can experiment, could could grow and also collaborate and helping Indonesia to gain a larger and new job market and also reduce unemployment. And that is why as startups emerge, they probably will hire more young professionals, more young specialists, and opening new doors to careers in technology, marketing, or probably management. And the fourth one is to attract investors and promoting our startup collaboration. I see that investors may have a multiple startups thriving across of the various city, they will probably be willing to provide capital and also market access. And startup in the Silicon Valley will probably learn from one to each other and benchmark from all of them to be able to share resources, collaborate, and in the end, creating an ecosystem where everyone could improve to another. And the fifth one, as the last one, is to focus on sustainability in the digital era. We know that building Indonesia Silicon Valley could give us more chances to focus on sustainability, something that is actually aligned to us as a Gen Z, something that we have to care for the future of Indonesia. So unlike the early Silicon Valley in California, which prioritized growth at all costs, we could create a healthier, more sustainable startup ecosystem. And startups today not only must innovate, but also consider the environmental and also the social aspect
POI?
of work. Sorry, no. With the so with the right support and also the guidance, these hoops could actually nurture green startup that actually could focus on solving environmental challenges and building sustainable technology and also provide responsible digital practices. And I think from all of our aspects and points that we have given out to these motions today, I believe that Indonesia should provide a Silicon
POI?
Valley for us as the youth. Okay, yes, please.
How do you think Gen Zs are able to create a better career for themselves, even if they're trying to work in startups with very inexperienced people, with people who are only having resources based from government funding?
Okay, thank you for the POI. So I would like to address maybe you have to understand the nature of work in startup. Startup actually gives a lot of chances for us as the youth to be able to grow and continue to collaborate with the others youth in order to improve not only for ourselves, not only for our community, but to Indonesia, to global. And that is why we need government help. I didn't like subject the government help in a startup because I believe that each part have to work hands in hands in order to create a better living condition for all of us. And that is all that we want to say from the opposition team. We think that Indonesia should create a better, a healthy, a sustainable Silicon Valley for the future of Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you to the third speaker, Ms. Jenny from the opposition team, who has presented her argument. We will now move on to the reply speech. The opposition team spokesperson, Mr. Aryan, is invited to give a reply speech of 5 minutes and 20 seconds. Time will start from the first word.
Hello again. My name is Aryan Panugaro here as the reply speaker of the opposition team on this motion. Proud to be, of course. And before I go into comparing the arguments provided by both sides, I'd like to summarize the arguments provided by both sides into 4 brief sentences each. For the government side, the government argues that the government side argues that the House or the government should instead build infrastructure such as roads and water purification centers instead of in Silicon Valley, Indonesia. Second, the Silicon Valley, Indonesia will not help most people. It will not be more beneficial for most people. Third, startups and technology do not help most people. And fourth, we can't compete anyway. Competing against multinational corporations and big established companies is impossible or at least unrealistic, whether it be due to a lack of competence or resources, as confirmed by the third speaker of the government team. Now, for the opposition side, or in this case, the pro for the Silicon Valley in Indonesia. First, Silicon Valley in Indonesia is an investment for the future, which will help everyone. Second, tech startups allow more efficient solutions and provide jobs for everyone. Third, Silicon Valley in Indonesia drives economic growth and provides job opportunities, especially by attracting investments, whether it be from local people or from foreigners. And fourth, these help to create a healthier and more sustainable startup ecosystem. And let's add a fifth. Fifth, it decentralizes the growth in tech startups from just Jakarta and Java, but to also cities and regions outside of Java. Now, as a reply speaker, I've summarized these points, and I think I've summarized them pretty well. But honestly, there were so many points that it was pretty difficult. But let's compare. And I'd like to give our side's opinion on the argument, stance, points, technique, and well, maybe overall manner of the government side, we think that they are actually completely divorced from reality in their opinions. We understand that their opinions and their intent is good. They frame this entire motion as some sort of class struggle between the bourgeoisie living in the cities and making tech startups and the proletariat living in Papua, living in Kalimantan, who don't have access to these resources. They've done a very good job framing it. They've done a very good job at making us seem like the bad guy. But this is all an illusion, my friends. They are deceiving you, and they are showing you that they don't really have an argument. It's almost malicious if it wasn't so incompetent. Now, what they have really done is say, okay, we should build infrastructure instead of, say, tech startups. Of course, we're doing both. There's no way the government would focus on either one. That's not even the topic of the motion. Using some money to build these tech startups, as explained by my friend before, will not prevent the government from making those roads and water purification centers that they want so badly. And then, second point, Silicon Valley, Indonesia will not help most people. We've already shown how that actually is false. They made these arguments, and they make these arguments again and again, but they never seem to be able to prove that this is actually true, especially after we've already rebutted them. They are blind to the fact that startups and technology are the way forward. They are the way we build a better society for our children, for our grandchildren, for everyone, not just us now. These are investments for the future, both financially and also societally. Lastly, they argue that we can't compete anyway and it's a waste of resources. And again, I think this is the greatest example of them being completely divorced from reality, from them living in some sort of dream world where Indonesia is, well, I can't use bad words, so the worst place in the world or something. We've already mentioned Gojek. We've already mentioned those e-fisheries. We drove out Uber from Indonesia. We've already proven that we can win, so why are they so pessimistic? This is actually the main idea of the government side. They want Indonesia to never move forward. They want to live in this ideal world where you can simply give infrastructure for everyone first and then move forward as a country. If we did that, if we made the standard of our country the lowest of our people, then no one would have phones, no one would have cars, no one would have trains even. Is this the world they want? And this is the world they're showing you. This is the world they're proposing as the ideal, as the one we're living in, actually. Now, for our team, on the other hand, I'm sorry for spending so long on the other side, we have provided again and again evidence and arguments that we are looking to the future. We are looking towards a brighter future that we can build for everyone. We've explained and again how this, no matter how bad it seems right now to them, this is a better thing for everyone. We explained it. They've ignored it. I think that this shows how the one actually debating this motion, the one actually involved in this motion is the opposition side. The government side are arguing, and it's not against us. It's not for this motion. They're just arguing. And that's why we should win. Thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Aryan for delivering the opposition reply speech. We will now turn to the government team spokesperson, Mr. Shafiq. For the government side, you are welcome to give your reply speech for 5 minutes and 20 seconds. Time will start from the first word.
Okay, am I audible in this speech?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, wait a second. Okay, I would like to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So 2 main things I will actually do in this speech today. Firstly, I want to compare both ideas from the government opposition side, and secondly, I want to explain to you why we win this debate and why they lose. But firstly, I want to remind you that they are in the reply speech they are actually brought on your arguments and rebuttal, which is actually not allowed. But then this is not my main focus. Now, moving on firstly to our comparing of our arguments. So in our arguments, we firstly have explained to you many ideas about how we are going to solve inequality, because we have to see again in the status quo of Indonesia or even the characteristics of our developing countries, where we have to understand that many areas that we have explained to you that many areas in Asia right now are facing an inequality of infrastructure, where we're not even having enough roads, we're not even have enough schools or for education, even enough infrastructure for medical health, for example. And that is what we want to solve in this debate today. Also, we have explained to you on how we are still having the lack of human resources, and how we're still having the lack of manufacturing systems in technology development, and how we're still having the lack of these of our educational systems that are still not focusing in these systems field enough, which in the end of the day will not meet the field requirements if we are going to develop these of Silicon Valleys to begin with. And also we had already explained to you on how in the end of the day that because we are actually solving this inequality, firstly we are going to solve the internal chaos because we are preventing the internal chaos, because in the end of the day there will be no unfairness between the people in rural areas and urban areas that are facing different infrastructures. And also in the end of the day, and how we are actually focusing on the human resources development, and also how in the end of the day we are going to use the budget that we have as effective as enough. Now moving on to the arguments that are provided by the opposition side of the team. So firstly, in the first beginning of the debate, they are just focusing about the applications and the technology that we have right now. So let me take an example of what they have stated about Gojek, for example. They explain on how we have Gojek that can give us easy access, and also because we can see the benefits that we have of the technology that we have right now, how this is beneficial enough for our people in Indonesia, ladies and gentlemen. But what they fail to understand, and we have already explained to you many times, but they never even give a better argument to propose to rebut our argument, is that we still don't have enough infrastructure enough to support all those technologies, ladies and gentlemen, because they are always debating, they was always giving arguments on how, oh, we already have a great technologies. Why are we so pessimistic about this in the first place? So, ladies and gentlemen, if we are not creating an equal infrastructures, firstly, how are we going to use these technologies and how are we going to maximize this technology to begin with, ladies and gentlemen? And secondly, we have already explained to you many times about because this unequal infrastructures, ladies and gentlemen, already explained to you since the beginning that this will cause internal chaos. That if we are just focusing on creating your Silicon Valleys, ladies and gentlemen, you're just going to waste the budget that we have, because you're just going to focus in budget on the cities that are already developed. You're just going to focus in budget on creating things that you don't even have the sufficient factors to begin with, ladies and gentlemen. And also, if we have already debated and rebutted all their ideas in the first place itself. We have already debated about them, about how even they have provided arguments about us that we have the technology, we have many types of technologies. That is still not enough because we don't have enough infrastructure to support them to begin with. We have already rebutted them of many of their arguments. We already explained to them on how we don't even have the sufficient human resources to actually develop this Silicon Valleys to begin with. And also we have already rebutted their arguments when they say that, oh, we can actually create job opportunities because we are creating many of these hundreds of thousands of startups to begin with. Ladies and gentlemen, we have already explained to you since the beginning of our arguments and rebuttals that because we don't have we don't have the human resources that requires the minimal standards, ladies and gentlemen. In the end of the day, we are not going to focus on the quality of these development technologies. What is the point of us creating these Silicon Valleys if we are not creating the Silicon Valleys into the most upper qualities? Because in the end of the day, we have explained to you that if we are just creating these technologies without prioritizing the qualities of these technologies in the first place, we are just going to lose the market with other countries. Because even in the first place, we are just already being dominated by the technology market by American China, like I've explained to you before. Then how if you're just focusing on these technologies without even focusing on prioritizing on the infrastructure and human resource in the first place? We already explained to you that in the end of the day, you will just actually use the budget that we have you'll just use the budget that we have for such useless things. In the end of the day, you're not going to help us create things that are beneficial for our country. But in the end of the day, you're just going to destroy our country to begin with. And also, ladies and gentlemen, they have explained to us other things. Like, for example, they consider on how if we are focusing on these Silicon Valleys, in the end of the day, we're going to collect many investments which can actually develop our country, which can actually give us many profits. But ladies and gentlemen, even though if their cases actually become true and actually comes up to become true, ladies and gentlemen, then what will happen in the progress of those of those investments? Because what we have to understand is that if you are still creating these Silicon Valleys, then you are going to focus the budgets on these 10 main cities. You're not going to focus the budgets on the poor people. You're going to focus this budget on the minority people that we already explained to you before. So in the end of the day, what they actually fail to understand is that they are just focusing on the, oh, we want to develop the technology for Indonesia.
Sorry, your time is up. Okay, thank you to Mr. Shafiq for delivering the government team's reply speech. And with the end of the reply speech from the government side, determines the end of our debate session this time of Lijur 2024. The result of the English debate, winners, will be announced further via Instagram. Before we end the session, we would like for Kak Tizi as the educator to provide feedback or comments in in this session of the English debate today. Okay, so since this is the final session, so there will be no feedback, so it's supposed to be a silent debate. Thank you. So thank you to our adjudicator and both teams for attending this debate session in the final round of English Debate Lijur TI 2024. The results of the English debate winners will be announced via Lijur's Instagram and the Mangkats group. Thank you, and you may leave the room.
Thank you, Kak.
Thank you, Kak. Thank you for the committee. You did a great job.
Thank you all. Thank you, Tech.
Okay, thank you.
Good job, guys. Are you guys also in IDS, like English Debate Society? EDS?
No.
No? You guys are really good. Okay.
Thank you, Kak. You guys are very good.
Thank you, guys. Boleh leave Zoom ya, Kak?
Okay. GG everyone. Thank you for the
Oke, thank you,
debate. GG.
Bang. Makasih, Kak. Makasih, Bang.
Makasih Bang, makasih Kak.
Yay, congrats, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Sasha.
Yay. Very good.
Gue nggak tahu kok. Ini